There are a few phrases that sound small until you realize what they really mean. An unlocked cabin. Not a rescue helicopter, not a flare, not a miracle cure, just a door that opened. Somewhere deep in California's Sierra Nevada, in the kind of country that swallows sound and phone signals and people. A woman reached the point where survival stops being a plan and becomes a decision you have to remake every single hour. Her name is Tiffany Slayton, and by the time anyone found her, she'd been missing for nearly 3 weeks. Cold, hungry, dehydrated, and still alive. Not because it was easy, not because she got lucky the whole time, but because she kept doing one brutal thing over and over again. She refused to quit. Before the headlines and the search maps and the speculation, but Tiffany was just a person doing what a lot of people dream about doing. A solo trip, a reset, a personal adventure. She was from Georgia, Jeffersonville, and she'd been traveling. Some reports say it was part of a bucket list push, a bigger journey across states, a way of proving something to herself. And she wasn't careless. That's important. Because when someone goes missing, people love to write a simple story in their heads. She must have been irresponsible. She must have ignored warnings. She must have panicked. But Tiffany had outdoor experience. She knew plants. She knew how to move in nature. And she carried gear. Enough that, in normal conditions, would have been fine. Normal conditions don't exist in the Sierra when the weather decides you don't belong. The Sierra doesn't care if you're prepared. It only cares what you do next. Late April in that part of California is deceptive. You can get sun on your face in the morning and a whiteout by afternoon. You can see a trail and lose it 5 minutes later under fresh snow. You can stand in a peaceful forest and have no idea how quickly things can turn mean. Authorities later said the last confirmed sightings were around the Huntington Lake area, Fresno County territory, before she disappeared into the backcountry. The search zone that followed would stretch across hundreds of square miles from lake country to rugged high-elevation terrain. And then she was gone. No calls, no messages, no check-ins, just absence. That's the scariest part for families. Because you don't know if the silence means peace, injury, fear, or the end. Somewhere out there, Tiffany was still moving, when the Sierra was about to introduce itself. At some point out in that wilderness, Tiffany fell, not a stumble, a fall that stole time from her life. She later said she fell off a cliff and was knocked unconscious, out for roughly a couple of hours. Think about that. You go from hiking, breathing, walking, thinking, to nothing. No awareness, no control, no ability to protect yourself. Just your body lying where it lands. And when she came back to consciousness, she wasn't coming back to a manageable inconvenience. She was injured, she was disoriented, and the wilderness around her didn't look like a trail anymore. It looked like distance, the kind of distance that doesn't just mean far. It means you might not make it. People imagine panic as screaming, running, losing your mind, but real panic in survival situations is quieter. It's the moment you try your phone, again, and there's nothing. No bars, no GPS that actually helps. No emergency call that goes through. It's the moment you look around and realize every direction looks the same. Trees, rock, slope, snow. It's the moment you think, if I don't fix this, I'm going to die out here. And here's the cruel part. Even if people are searching, you don't know they're searching. Even if your name is being spoken on the news, you don't know it. For Tiffany, there was no press release, no reassurance, just cold air and an injured body and a horizon that didn't care. So she did what survival demands. She started making decisions with the information she had, and the information she had was terrifying. The reports later described repeated snowstorms, multiple major hits during the time she was missing. Some coverage puts the number around 13 storms. In that kind of weather, the mountain doesn't give you recovery time. You don't get to say, okay, today was hard, tomorrow I'll do better. Tomorrow might be worse. Snow means wet. Wet means hypothermia. Hypothermia means your thinking gets slow and your hands stop working, and small mistakes turn fatal. Cold doesn't just hurt. Cold steals options, and Tiffany, injured alone without reliable navigation, had to keep moving, keep sheltering, keep finding water, keep finding the will to get up again. She later described damage to her eyes from being in the snow so long. Snow glare can burn your vision, and when your eyes are compromised, everything gets harder. Now imagine trying to walk in a world that's white and bright and painful. Imagine trying to be calm when every step could slip and reopen injury. Imagine trying to sleep when your body is screaming for warmth you can't produce. This wasn't a weekend inconvenience. This was a slow, grinding contest between one person and a mountain range. There's a version of survival that looks clean in movies. You make a perfect fire, you catch a fish, you build a shelter with steady hands and a clear mind. Real survival is messy. It's shivering so hard your muscles cramp. It's waking up soaked because the snow found a way into your gear. It's realizing your food is disappearing faster than your strength. It's drinking water you had to create by melting snow because there's no stream you can reach. Tiffany, reportedly, melted or boiled snow for water. That's not a fun outdoors trick. That's work. It takes time. It takes fuel. But it takes the ability to keep your hands moving when they want to stop. And food? She foraged. Wild leeks are mentioned repeatedly in reporting. Something green, something edible, something that kept her from crashing completely. But foraging in deep snow isn't like shopping. You're not finding food. You're fighting for it. And there's another detail that came out in later coverage. She wrote. She kept notes, journaled. Something to hold on to sanity, to create structure in a world that had none. Because after enough days alone, the wilderness starts doing something else. It starts messing with your mind. Silence becomes loud, your own thoughts become a crowd. You start bargaining with yourself. Just make it to morning. Just make it past this storm. Just make it to a place where you can see something familiar. While Tiffany was out there living minute to minute, something else was happening. A massive search effort. The Fresno County authorities and search and rescue teams covered a huge area, hundreds of square miles, over multiple days and nights. Snow complicated everything. Conditions limited visibility. Terrain made access brutal. Searchers can be close to you and still never see you. A person in the mountains is small. A person in the snow is almost invisible. And there came a point where officials scaled back active searching after days without finding her or her belongings. Because resources are finite and the wilderness can turn even rescue into a second emergency. That's another reality people don't like to talk about. Search teams don't quit because they don't care. They scale back because nature can kill the rescuers too. And still, somewhere out there, Tiffany kept going. At a certain stage in survival, what you stop looking for the perfect solution. You start looking for any solution. Shelter becomes everything. A break from wind, a place to get out of wet clothes, a spot where you can be still without dying. And then she found it. A cabin connected to Vermilion Valley Resort, near Lake Edison, seasonal wilderness country, the kind of place that closes down and leaves structures behind. Here's the detail that makes this story hit hard. The resort staff left cabin doors unlocked during the off-season in case a lost hiker needed shelter. That policy, simple, quiet, human, was the difference between a body being found later and a person being found alive. Tiffany got inside. Think about that moment. Imagine being cold for days and then touching a door handle. Imagine expecting it to be locked, because why wouldn't it be? And then it opens. For a second, you don't even move, because your brain doesn't trust it. Then you step in, and the air inside doesn't cut your lungs. The wind isn't screaming. The snow isn't landing on your face. It's not comfort, but it's survival. She stayed there, sheltering, holding on, until help arrived. On May 14th, the resort owner, Christopher Gutierrez, came to check the property as access opened up again. And inside one of those cabins, he found her. Alive, not a ghost story, not a rumor, a living person who'd been missing. Reports say she was hungry and dehydrated. She was taken for medical evaluation, and you have to imagine what that scene felt like, on both sides. For him, walking into a cabin you know is supposed to be empty, seeing a human being where there shouldn't be one, having to process in seconds whether this is real. For her, hearing footsteps and not knowing if it's help or danger, not knowing if your voice will work, not knowing if you're about to wake up and realize you were dreaming. There's a special kind of shock when you've been alone too long. Rescue doesn't always feel like celebration right away. Sometimes it feels like disbelief. Sometimes your body doesn't even know how to relax anymore, because you've trained it, day after day, to stay ready, stay alert, stay alive. And now someone is saying, "It's over. You made it." After she was found, Tiffany spoke publicly with her parents and officials. She described the fall, the storms, the fear, the way nature felt. Beautiful and terrifying. She wore sunglasses in at least one appearance due to eye damage from the time in snow. And then came what always comes now. People argued online. Some doubted her. Some questioned details. Some decided they knew what really happened from a couch hundreds of miles away. But authorities said they were investigating and retracing what they could, and later, coverage reported that investigators found evidence that supported key parts of her story. Here's what matters. She was missing. She was in harsh terrain. She endured repeated storms. She reached shelter. She was found alive. Everything else, every opinion, every armchair analysis, doesn't change the core truth. She survived something most people don't even want to imagine. And survival doesn't need to be perfect to be real. It just needs to happen. If you take anything from Tiffany Slayton's story, let it be this. The line between adventure and emergency can be one wrong step, a fall, a storm, a decision made tired. And after that, the wilderness doesn't negotiate, but her story is also about something else, something quiet and powerful. Skill matters, stubbornness matters, and small human choices matter. A journal to keep your mind steady, knowledge of edible plants, the discipline to keep moving when you want to stop, and a cabin door left unlocked because someone thought, what if? That's not just a survival story, that's a story about how people survive people-less places. Not with drama, with decisions, with grit, with one more step. And if you ever find yourself thinking, that could never be me, remember this. Tiffany didn't wake up that morning planning to become a headline. She woke up planning a trip. The mountains decided differently, and she answered with the most realistic, the most dramatic thing a human being can do in the face of the indifferent cold. She stayed alive anyway. If you want the next story, subscribe now so you don't miss the next survival story.